Sarah loved the woods. She knew all the animal calls, all the best berry patches, and all the secret trails. But there was one thing Sarah hadn't found yet. Bigfoot. Bigfoot was a legend, a hairy giant said to roam the forests. Most people didn't believe in him, but Sarah did. She'd heard stories from her grandpa, a lifelong woodsman. He swore he'd seen Bigfoot once, a long time ago. So Sarah set out to find him. She packed her backpack with water, snacks, a map, and a notebook. For days, she hiked through the woods, carefully watching for any sign of the elusive creature. She looked for giant footprints, broken branches, and tufts of hair. She even brought a plaster kit, just in case she found a perfect footprint to cast. The forest was beautiful, full of tall trees and colorful birds. But finding Bigfoot was hard work. She spent hours walking, often getting lost or turned around. Sometimes she'd find animal tracks, but they were always deer or raccoons or squirrels, not Bigfoot. She was starting to feel a little silly, like maybe Bigfoot really was just a story. But she kept going, driven by her grandpa's tales and her own sense of adventure. She knew deep down that Bigfoot was out there somewhere. She just had to keep looking. Days turned into a week. Sarah's boots were muddy, her clothes were torn, and her backpack felt heavier with each step. The forest, once welcoming, now seemed to mock her with its silence. She hadn't found a single promising clue in days. The animal tracks she saw were the same small creatures she'd been seeing all along. She sat down on a mossy log, pulling out a half-eaten granola bar. Disappointment weighed heavily on her. Maybe Grandpa was wrong. Maybe Bigfoot wasn't real. Maybe she was just wasting her time. She thought about turning back, going home to a warm bath and a comfy bed. As she chewed on the granola bar, she kicked at the dirt with her boot. Her toe struck something hard. She brushed away the leaves and dirt, revealing a patch of smooth, damp earth. And there it was, a footprint. But not just any footprint. This one was huge, much bigger than any deer or bear. And it was clearly a footprint, not just a random impression in the mud. It was deep and well-defined, with long toes and a wide heel. Sarah's heart leaped. This was it, a real Bigfoot footprint. A surge of energy coursed through her. She wasn't crazy. Bigfoot was real and she was on the right track. She grabbed her plaster kit, her doubts replaced with renewed excitement. The plaster set quickly in the afternoon sun. Sarah carefully lifted the cast from the ground, revealing a perfect replica of the giant footprint. It was heavy, but she carried it proudly, a tangible piece of evidence. Following the direction the footprint pointed, she pushed through thick bushes and climbed over fallen logs. The forest seemed to change. The trees grew taller, the air felt cooler, and the sounds of birds were replaced by an eerie silence. She felt like she was entering a secret place, a part of the woods untouched by humans. Suddenly, the trees opened up and Sarah gasped. She found herself on the edge of a hidden valley. It was like a secret world surrounded by towering cliffs and filled with lush green plants. A clear, sparkling river flowed through the middle of the valley and sunlight streamed down, creating a warm and inviting glow. Sarah had never seen anything like it. She checked her map, but there was no valley marked. It was as if this place didn't exist except to her. She knew with a certainty that warmed her from the inside out that this was where Bigfoot lived. This was his home. She took a deep breath and stepped into the valley, ready to face whatever awaited her. At first, the valley seemed empty. Just trees and grass and the sound of the river. But then Sarah saw movement near a cluster of large rocks. She squinted, trying to make out what it was. And then she saw them. Bigfoot. Not just one, but a whole family. There was a very large one, probably the dad, covered in thick, dark brown hair. He was enormous, easily 8 feet tall. Next to him was a slightly smaller one, likely the mom, with softer, lighter brown fur. And then there were 2 smaller ones, the children, playing near the riverbank. One was chasing butterflies, while the other was splashing in the shallow water. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. She couldn't believe her eyes. She was actually seeing Bigfoot, and not just one, but a whole family, right in front of her. She felt a mix of fear and excitement, wonder and disbelief. She wanted to run away, but she also wanted to stay and observe them, to learn more about these mysterious creatures. She knew this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. She found a thicket of bushes and carefully crouched down, hoping they wouldn't see her. She pulled out her notebook and pencil, ready to document everything she saw. This was it. This was the moment she had been waiting for. Sarah's hands trembled as she held her notebook. She knew she should be terrified, but curiosity outweighed her fear. The dad Bigfoot was huge, much bigger than she had imagined. His eyes were dark and intelligent, and he seemed to be watching over his family with a gentle protectiveness. The mom Bigfoot was busy gathering berries, carefully selecting the ripest ones and placing them in a woven basket. The two children were full of energy, running and playing without a care in the world. Sarah watched them for a long time, her heart filled with a strange mix of awe and wonder. She noticed the way the dad Bigfoot would occasionally glance at the children, making sure they were safe. She saw the mom Bigfoot stop her berry picking to wipe mud off one of the children's faces. They were just like any other family, caring for each other and enjoying their time together. Despite the peaceful scene, Sarah knew she had to be careful. These were still wild creatures, and she was an intruder in their home. She stayed perfectly still, barely breathing, trying not to make any noise that would alert them to her presence. She reminded herself to stay calm and observe, to learn as much as she could without disturbing them. She hoped they wouldn't see her, but she knew that if they did, she would have to be ready to react quickly. The sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the valley. The air grew cooler, and the Bigfoot family started to gather closer together. The mom Bigfoot spread out a large, woven mat, and the children eagerly sat down. The dad Bigfoot returned from the edge of the woods carrying a pile of branches. He carefully arranged them into a small fire pit. Sarah watched, fascinated, as the family prepared for the evening. The mom Bigfoot took out the basket of berries and shared them with the children. They ate quietly, their eyes shining in the fading light. The dad Bigfoot lit the fire, and the flames crackled and danced, casting a warm glow on their faces. He then started humming a low, rumbling tune. The children seemed to recognize it, and they began to hum along. Sarah was amazed. They were singing. Or at least, humming a song together. It was a simple, soothing melody, but it filled the valley with a sense of peace and contentment. She scribbled furiously in her notebook, trying to capture every detail. She knew that this was something special, something that most people would never believe. She felt a deep sense of responsibility to share this experience with the world, to show people that Bigfoot were not just monsters, but intelligent, social creatures with families and feelings just like us. Earlier in the day, before the fire, Sarah had witnessed even more heartwarming moments. One of the little Bigfoots had tried to climb over a large, fallen log but was too small to reach the top. The dad Bigfoot gently scooped him up and placed him on the other side, making a soft, reassuring grunt. The little one giggled and ran off to play. Later, the mom Bigfoot sat with the other child, carefully picking twigs and leaves out of its fur. She was very gentle, and the child seemed to enjoy the attention, leaning into her touch. It reminded Sarah of her own mom brushing her hair when she was little. These small acts of kindness and affection spoke volumes about the Bigfoot family's bond. They weren't just surviving, they were thriving, supporting each other, and creating a loving home in the heart of the wilderness. Sarah realized that the stories she had heard about Bigfoot being solitary, savage creatures were completely wrong. They were social animals, just like humans, with complex emotions and strong family ties. The more she observed, the more her heart opened to them, and the more she felt a connection to these gentle giants. She knew that she could never look at Bigfoot the same way again. Suddenly, the dad Bigfoot stopped humming. He lifted his head, his dark eyes scanning the surrounding trees. Sarah's heart leaped into her throat. Had he seen her? She froze, holding her breath, hoping she was still hidden well enough. The dad Bigfoot turned his head slightly, his gaze fixed on the thicket of bushes where Sarah was hiding. He didn't seem angry or aggressive, just curious. He took a slow, deliberate step forward. Then another. Sarah's mind raced. What should she do? Run? Stay still? Try to communicate? He continued to walk toward her, his enormous frame moving with surprising grace. The mom and children Bigfoot stopped what they were doing and watched him with wide eyes. Sarah could feel their apprehension, their concern for the dad. He stopped just a few feet from the bushes, his gaze unwavering. He tilted his head slightly, as if trying to get a better look. Then, he reached out a massive hand and gently pushed aside a few of the branches, revealing Sarah, crouching behind them, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and wonder. He stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Sarah held her breath, waiting for his reaction. Would he roar? Would he attack? Or would he do something completely unexpected? The dad Bigfoot didn't roar. He didn't attack. Instead, he made a soft, rumbling sound, deep in his chest, like a gentle purr. It was a sound Sarah had never heard before, but it didn't sound threatening. Sounded almost friendly. Then he did something even more surprising. He extended his massive hand, palm up, and gestured for Sarah to come closer. It was a clear invitation, an offer of peace. Sarah was stunned. She couldn't believe what was happening. This gentle giant was inviting her into his family's space. She hesitated for a moment, her mind still reeling from the shock. Was it a trap? Was she being foolish to trust him? But looking into his kind eyes, she felt a sense of calm wash over her. She knew deep down that he meant no harm. The mom and children Bigfoot watched intently, their eyes filled with curiosity and a hint of fear. The mom Bigfoot gently pulled the children closer, as if to protect them. Sarah knew that she had to make a decision quickly. She could either run away, back into the woods and never look back, or she could take a leap of faith and accept the dad Bigfoot's invitation. She took a deep breath and made her choice. Slowly, hesitantly, she began to crawl out of the bushes. Sarah stood up slowly, brushing leaves and dirt off her clothes. The dad Bigfoot remained still, watching her with his gentle eyes. The mom and children Bigfoot, however, were much more wary. They quickly retreated behind the dad, peeking out from behind his legs, their eyes wide with a mixture of curiosity and fear. The mom Bigfoot wrapped her arms around the children, pulling them close, a clear display of protectiveness. Sarah took a few tentative steps forward, her heart pounding in her chest. She tried to smile, hoping to convey that she meant no harm. She kept her hands open and visible, showing that she wasn't carrying any weapons. She knew that this was a delicate situation and she had to be careful not to scare them. The dad Bigfoot lowered his hands slightly as if to reassure his family. He made another soft, rumbling sound and the mom Bigfoot seemed to relax a little. The children, however, remained hidden behind their dad, still unsure of this strange creature that had entered their valley. Sarah stopped a few feet away from the dad Bigfoot, giving him plenty of space. She waited patiently, hoping that he would understand that she just wanted to be friends. She knew that gaining their trust would take time, but she was willing to be patient. This was an opportunity of a lifetime, and she wasn't going to waste it. The dad Bigfoot looked down at the woven basket filled with berries that the mom Bigfoot had gathered earlier. He reached into the basket and carefully selected a handful of the ripest, juiciest-looking berries. He extended his hand towards Sarah, offering her the berries. Sarah hesitated for only a moment. She knew that accepting his gift was a sign of trust, a way to show him that she meant no harm. She reached out and gently took the berries from his hand. His fingers were surprisingly soft, despite their size. She looked at the berries, recognizing them as a type of wild blueberry that grew in the valley. She popped one into her mouth and chewed slowly, savoring the sweet, tangy flavor. She smiled at the dad Bigfoot, hoping he understood that she appreciated his gift. The dad Bigfoot seemed to understand. He made another soft, rumbling sound and his eyes seemed to twinkle with amusement. The mom Bigfoot peeked out from behind him, her expression softening slightly. Even the children seemed a little less scared, their curiosity starting to outweigh their fear. Sarah knew that this was a turning point. By accepting his gift, she had taken the first step towards building a relationship with this incredible family. She felt a surge of gratitude and hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could learn to communicate with them, to understand their way of life, and to share their story with the world. The dad Bigfoot seemed visibly relieved that Sarah had accepted his offering. He made another soft, rumbling sound, this one sounding even more gentle and welcoming than before. It was as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Seeing their dad's relaxed demeanor, the mom Bigfoot cautiously stepped out from behind him. She still kept a close eye on Sarah, but her posture was less tense, her expression less fearful. The children, emboldened by their mom's bravery, slowly emerged as well, their curiosity finally winning over their apprehension. They peeked out from behind their parents, their big, brown eyes fixed on Sarah. One of the children, the smaller one who had been splashing in the river earlier, took a tentative step forward, reaching out a small, furry hand. Sarah smiled, her heart swelling with affection. She knelt down, making herself smaller and less intimidating. The little Bigfoot hesitated for a moment, then reached out and gently touched Sarah's hand with its fingertips. It was a fleeting touch, but it was enough. Sarah could feel the warmth and trust in that simple gesture. The other child, seeing that Sarah was friendly, also came closer, giggling and pointing at Sarah's boots. The mom Bigfoot chuckled softly, and even the dad Bigfoot cracked a small smile. Sarah knew that she had been accepted, not just by the dad, but by the entire family. She was no longer an intruder, but a guest. As the evening wore on, Sarah spent more time with the Bigfoot family, simply observing and learning. She saw them share a meal of roots and vegetables, passing the food around and making sure everyone had enough. The mom Bigfoot showed Sarah how to identify edible plants, pointing them out with a gentle touch. Later, the children Bigfoot started playing a game, chasing each other around the fire pit, their laughter echoing through the valley. Sarah watched, smiling, as the dad Bigfoot joined in, lumbering after them with playful grunts. He was surprisingly agile for his size, dodging and weaving with ease. As the fire began to die down, one of the children Bigfoot tripped and scraped its knee. It started to cry, and the mom Bigfoot rushed over to comfort it. She hugged the child tightly, humming a soothing lullaby. The dad Bigfoot knelt down and gently examined the scrape, licking it clean. The child soon stopped crying and snuggled into its mom's arms, feeling safe and loved. Sarah realized that these moments, these simple acts of kindness and connection, were what truly defined the Bigfoot family. They were not just surviving in the wilderness, they were creating a loving, supportive community just like any other family. She felt incredibly privileged to be witnessing this, to be a part of their world, even for just a little while. As she sat by the fire watching the Bigfoot family, Sarah had a profound realization. They weren't the scary monsters that people imagined. They were just a family, like hers, trying to live their lives in the best way they knew how. They had their own customs, their own language, their own way of showing love and support. She thought about her own family, her mom, her dad, her little brother. They shared meals together, played games, and comforted each other when they were sad. The Bigfoot family was no different. They had the same basic needs, the same basic emotions. Sarah realized that fear and ignorance were what fueled the stories about Bigfoot being dangerous. People were afraid of what they didn't understand. But now that she had seen them with her own eyes, she knew that there was nothing to fear. They were gentle, intelligent creatures who deserved respect and protection. She felt a deep sense of responsibility to change people's perceptions of Bigfoot. She wanted to share her story to show them the truth. She knew it wouldn't be easy. Many people would laugh at her or dismiss her as crazy. But she was determined to try. She owed it to the Bigfoot family, and she owed it to herself. She knew that her life would never be the same. She had seen something extraordinary, something that had changed her forever. And she was ready to share that experience with the world. The sun began to dip below the cliffs surrounding the valley, painting the sky in hues of orange, pink, and purple. The air grew cooler and the shadows lengthened. The dad Bigfoot stood up, his tall frame silhouetted against the fading light. He looked at Sarah with a serious expression, then pointed towards the entrance of the valley. Sarah understood. It was time for her to leave. She felt a pang of sadness. She didn't want to go. She wanted to stay and learn more about this incredible family. But she knew that she couldn't overstay her welcome. She had been granted a rare privilege, and she had to respect their boundaries. She stood up and smiled at the Bigfoot family. She made a gesture of gratitude, bowing her head slightly. The mom Bigfoot nodded in response, and the children Bigfoot waved goodbye. The dad Bigfoot walked towards her and placed his large hand on her shoulder, a gesture of farewell and perhaps, Sarah hoped, a promise of future meetings. She turned and started walking towards the entrance of the valley, her heart filled with a mix of emotions. She was sad to leave, but she was also grateful for the experience. She knew that she would never forget the time she spent with the Bigfoot family. She carried with her a newfound understanding and respect for these gentle giants, and a determination to share their story with the world. As she walked away, she promised herself that she would return someday, to visit her new friends and learn even more about their way of life. As she reached the edge of the valley, Sarah turned back to wave goodbye. The Bigfoot family was still standing by the fire pit, watching her. The dad Bigfoot raised his hand in a final farewell, and the children Bigfoot giggled and waved enthusiastically. Sarah waved back, her heart swelling with emotion. She stepped out of the valley and into the darkening forest. The trees seemed taller, the shadows deeper. But she wasn't afraid. She knew that she was no longer alone in the world. She had found a connection to something bigger than herself, something magical and extraordinary. The experience had changed her in ways she couldn't yet fully understand. She was more compassionate, more open-minded, and more determined than ever to protect the natural world and its inhabitants. She knew that the journey ahead wouldn't be easy. She would face skepticism and ridicule. But she was ready. She had seen the truth, and she wouldn't let anyone silence her. As she hiked through the woods, She thought about her grandpa. She knew that he would be proud of her. She had finally found what she was looking for, and she had discovered something even more valuable. A connection to a family of gentle giants who deserved to be understood and respected. She smiled, knowing that her adventure had just begun. The real work was about to start. As Sarah walked deeper into the forest, she made a solemn promise to herself. She would protect the Bigfoot family's secret. She wouldn't reveal the location of their hidden valley, and she wouldn't do anything that could put them in danger. She knew that their survival depended on their isolation, on their ability to remain hidden from the outside world. She thought about all the people who would want to exploit them, to capture them, to study them, or even to harm them. She couldn't let that happen. She had seen their gentleness, their intelligence, their love for each other. They deserved to live in peace, undisturbed by human interference. She knew that sharing their story would be a delicate balancing act. She would have to be careful not to reveal too much, to protect their privacy while still conveying the truth about their nature. She would focus on their humanity, on their family bonds, on their intelligence. She would try to show people that Bigfoot were not monsters, but sentient beings who deserved respect and compassion. She also knew that she would have to be prepared for the consequences of her actions. She might lose friends, she might face ridicule, and she might even be ostracized by her community. But she was willing to take that risk. She had seen something extraordinary, something that had changed her life forever. And she couldn't keep it to herself. She had a story to tell, and she was determined to tell it while still protecting the secret of the Bigfoot family. Back home, Sarah sat on her porch looking out at the familiar trees. The woods no longer seemed the same. They were no longer just a place for hiking and exploring. They were a sanctuary, a home to a family of gentle giants who deserved her protection. She opened her notebook and began to write, pouring out her heart onto the page. She described the Bigfoot family, their gentle interactions, their playful nature, their unwavering love for each other. She wrote about the dad Bigfoot's kindness, the mom Bigfoot's tenderness, and the children Bigfoot's boundless energy. She realized that she had gone into the woods searching for a monster, but she had found a family. She had gone in seeking adventure, but she had found a connection. She had gone in hoping to prove her grandpa right, but she had discovered something far more valuable, a new understanding of the world and her place in it. She knew that sharing her story would be a long and difficult process, but she was ready. She would start small, talking to her family and friends, sharing her photographs and her notes. She would be patient, persistent, and compassionate. She would try to change people's hearts and minds, one person at a time. She closed her notebook, feeling a sense of peace and purpose. She knew that her life had changed forever. She was no longer just Sarah, the hiker. She was Sarah, the protector of the Bigfoot family, the voice for the voiceless, the champion of the misunderstood. And she wouldn't rest until she had shared their story with the world.